What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today, episode 354 for Wednesday, September 9, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Drop your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And also, last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video, and I'll include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, let's get right into it here today. In addition to a quick cheap plug here, I did have a chance earlier today to talk to the all-new WWE NXT champion, the Prince himself, Finn Balor. That interview is going to be going up on Bleacher Report in the next couple of days. In the last couple of days alone, since last week's #AskGSM, I had a chance to chat with The Miz. That went up on Daily DDT last Thursday. I had a chance to chat with Bobby Lashley, the new United States champion. Last week, that interview went up on Fansided Daily DDT on Monday. And my interview with Chris Sabin, one half of the Impact World Tag Team Champions, went up on What Culture on Tuesday. So a lot of interviews to catch up on if you have not been keeping up with all my stuff. The Finn Balor interview is going up on, I think, either tomorrow or Friday on Bleacher Report. So stay tuned to the socials for that. I think Friday, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, let's get right into it here today. No Laura from YouTube, their first question was, if the roles were switched between Batista and Randy Orton in 2004 through WrestleMania 21, how would their careers have changed? That's a very good question. I don't know if Batista would have become the megastar that he did. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been in Guardians of the Galaxy and the 007 stuff and Hotel Artemis and whatever. I'm saying that, and the new Blade movie from a couple of years ago, I'm just saying that I don't think he would have become the main eventer in WWE. Just because a big reason why he was cemented as a star in WWE was because of that feud with Triple H. And it was oh so rare back then, even now, for someone to score not a clean win over Triple H, that's happened many times, but like 3 consecutive high-profile victories over a guy like Triple H. Obviously, Triple H got his win back almost 15 years later at WrestleMania 35 last year, in 2019. But at the time, that was a very big deal. For Batista to beat Triple H 3 times, people were gradually behind him. Had they put Batista in that spot to win the World Championship first? I mean, the thing with Randy is that it's not like, oh, they rushed Randy, which they did, and then he went on to fizzle out and won that World Championship, never won it again. The guy is obviously a megastar in WWE right now. The fact that they rushed his ascent to the top didn't really change a lot of things in terms of the top trajectory. They probably thought he would be a bigger babyface coming out of that run in Evolution than a heel, but obviously that wasn't the case. And he's had a lot of runs as a babyface, obviously over the course of his career, but he's always been a better heel. Batista has been a great heel, but he got over initially as that babyface, way more than Randy Orton ever did in 2004, 2005. So that's a good question. I feel like with Randy, he was able to bounce back. I don't know if Batista would have been able to bounce back. Because Orton, prior to turning on, or rather leaving Evolution, being booted from Evolution, already had success as a single star, as an Intercontinental Champion, proved to be a great heel. He didn't really need to split away from Evolution to become a star, as Batista did. Batista was doing well up to that point, but I'm not sure if anyone ever saw him as I wasn't watching back then, so I don't know. But I'm not sure if anyone in 2003, 2004 was saying, oh, Batista, the next world champion. He held 1 or 2 tag titles with Ric Flair, was never an Intercontinental Champion, never actually ended up winning any secondary titles in WWE. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think he did. Just a multi-time world champion. But anyway, yeah, so with Batista, I don't know. I think that's a good question. I think he may have fizzled out. Not that he wasn't good, but a big reason why people got behind him was because of that Triple H feud. If we don't get that feud, he doesn't take off the way that he does. So I think Orton would have been fine regardless. If he went on to WrestleMania with Triple H, I don't know if the match would have been as good, if the story would have been as good, but it still would have been interesting, I think. But Batista, I'm not as sold on the idea of him becoming a megastar without that initial Triple H feud in 2005. What if Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan did happen at WrestleMania was their second question. Now, that was from Facebook. I just decided to lump it all together here from No Laura. If Stone Cold and Hogan did happen at WrestleMania, I assume Stone Cold would have won. So I think the initial plan, and I read this in JR's book, and this is pretty public knowledge at this point, I believe, that they were planning on doing Stone Cold and Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Plans changed. They went to Rock and Hogan instead. Maybe Austin didn't want to do the job. I forgot exactly what the reason was why the match never happened. I don't really remember exactly, but I don't know if Austin... I mean, Hogan didn't want a job either, but he ended up losing to The Rock. Why would he not want to lose to Stone Cold but lose to The Rock? That doesn't make sense to me. So I assume he would have lost, but I don't know. I just feel like with Rock and Hogan, it was just a bigger deal. On paper, yeah, Austin and Hogan is a dream match to a certain extent, but it's not like... then again, Hogan and Rock wasn't like a fucking 5-star classic from like an in-ring standpoint. It was purely the energy. Would the fans have reacted the same way to Hogan and Austin? I don't know, and I feel like they wouldn't have. The way that Hogan and Rock have been able to electrify audiences without having great matches every single time, they were just the perfect fit for that WrestleMania. I don't know if Stone Cold and Hogan would have had the same effect. Now, Rock ended up leaving the same way that Austin did by 02, 03, so it's not like, if he put over Austin instead, it would have been a much bigger deal. Like, they were in the same boat. That didn't really matter. In terms of the match and the atmosphere, first of all, I don't know what else he would have done with The Rock at WrestleMania. Would he have faced Scott Hall? I mean, who gives a fuck, you know? I mean, I guess Austin and Scott Hall, who gives a fuck too, but I don't know. Austin was already kind of on his way down. His popularity was already dwindling. The Rock was still as popular as ever. Granted, they kind of turned on The Rock later on that year, and they turned on Rock at WrestleMania. They turned on him later that year when he faced Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. But I don't know. I feel like it just would not have been the same. So it wouldn't have changed the course of history to get Stone Cold versus Hogan, in my opinion, instead of Rock and Hogan. I just don't know if the match would have been as memorable. Probably still a big match, but they just don't fit as well together as, in my opinion, Rock and Hogan. So I'm kind of glad it went down the way it did. Emmanuel A. from YouTube. All Out 2020 seems to be AEW's most controversial show yet. Do you think the show will have a long-term effect on AEW's reputation? Because mediocre/bad pay-per-views are one thing. Having Matt Hardy climb a scaffold after being concussed and his wife disputing medical updates on Twitter is another. I don't think it will. I don't. I guess we'll find out tonight. I really don't see this being the beginning of the end for AEW. Them getting a reputation for being reckless. First of all, it was an extremely dumb thing to do. I don't think I've had a chance to talk about it on audio yet since Saturday. I will be reviewing the pay-per-view with RJ tomorrow on WrestleRant Radio. We'll talk more about it then. But in a nutshell, it was incredibly dumb. The doctor should be embarrassed. Matt Hardy should not have continued. I mean, I know that's the wrestler's mindset. Like, go on no matter what. Concussion or no concussion. The guy was fucked up. That was pretty clear watching that aftermath from the spot. The spot was stupid. There was no reason to do the spot. Yeah, they overblown it. They botched it. It was still a dumb fucking spot to do in the cement. They should not have done that. That was incredibly dumb. Matt Hardy should not have continued. That was his fault. The doctor should not have cleared the guy. Just because he's not concussed, he was very, very clearly fucked up. All it would have taken him was one slip off the scaffold. The guy could have been dead. So then, obviously the company's at fault as well for allowing that to continue. Tony, I'm hearing conflicting reports. Tony was like, I wanted it to stop. Then if you wanted it to stop, then how come it continued? Did the doctor override you? Like, I don't really understand how that works. If this is WWE, if we're going to compare the two promotions, which I know you're not, but I've seen people say that, Vince would have stopped that shit right away. They've done a lot of dumb shit, too. A lot of dumb shit. Someone fucking died on their watch in Owen Hart a long time ago. Did that ruin WWE's reputation? No, that was a lot worse. I know AEW is different than WWE, but I don't think it's going to ruin their reputation. Maybe with a very small portion of fans, a very small contingent of people. But I think the majority of people may not forget it. I'll never forget that. That was pretty scary on Saturday. But it's not like, I don't forgive them, fuck them. Like, they owned up for the fact that it was a mistake. It was extremely dumb. If it becomes a pattern like what we saw in TNA, where they do dumb thing after dumb thing after dumb thing, like the Jeff Hardy shit, that turned off a lot of people. I don't think it was one incident that turned people off from TNA. It was a variety of things. AEW, by and large, have not done a lot of dumb stuff, if any dumb stuff at all. And I'll talk more about dumb booking decisions. This wasn't a booking thing, but it was a very dumb thing for them to do. So no, I don't think it's going to ruin their reputation. I think they'll be perfectly fine. I think after another great show or two, who cares? I don't think, oh my god, All Out. First of all, the show was not good. I would go so far as to say it sucked. By AEW standards, the show sucked. easily their weakest show to date. But will I say, oh no, fuck AEW, they're terrible now, they're just a string of bad show after bad show? It was one pay-per-view. Who cares? It happens to everyone. WWE has a tendency, unfortunately, to put on a string of bad shows, like with Raw and stuff like that, pay-per-views. With AEW, we haven't seen that yet, so I have no reason to not be faithful, to not have faith that they won't bounce back in the coming weeks. I think they'll be perfectly fine, at least in my opinion. His second question: Finn Balor is technically a tweener, but do you think he'll lean more babyface or heel for his second NXT title reign? I looked up title reign history for a discussion on heel heavy it's been, and since Balor's original reign, only one babyface, Aleister Black, exceeded 100 days versus 5 heels, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, Andrade, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole. Karrion Kross was probably supposed to continue that cycle if he wasn't injured. Ironically, he's now the shortest reigning champion. Do you think the sudden change of plans will shift NXT's formula? That's a great point, and you're absolutely right. And I feel like that's not an NXT thing. Usually that's a wrestling thing, where the heels hold the championship longer than the baby faces, so it means more when they lose it. I mean, the same can be said for a face, but with the heels, you want to see them get their ass kicked. There's not as much money in a babyface champion. Now, listen, I love the AJ Styles, CM Punk reigns, and I feel like year-long title reigns nowadays aren't special at all, because we see them so often in WWE and all these other companies, Impact, Ring of Honor, fucking AEW, places like that. AEW, we haven't seen a year-long title reign, but Adam Page and Kenny Omega held the belts for 7 or 8 months? So anyway, as far as, what was your question again? Oh, the whole Finn Balor thing with the NXT Championship. Yeah, I feel like obviously Karrion Kross probably would have continued that. The guy's been undefeated. There just isn't as much money in a babyface holding the championship as there is them chasing it. I mean, Gargano, look at no further than him. I know Keith Lee's another example of a guy who held the championship. Both guys held the belt, had this great moment. And from there, it's like, okay, what do you really do with them? You know, I mean, I would have liked to have seen both guys have longer reigns, but the circumstances weren't really right in order for that to happen. But I don't know. I feel like it was a bigger deal for Keith Lee to beat Adam Cole for the championship than it was for Karrion to beat Keith Lee, because he's a babyface overcoming the dominant heel in this long championship reign. If it's the other way around, it doesn't feel as special, I feel like. And again, that's not an NXT formula. It is an NXT formula, but wrestling has been doing that for literally decades. NWA, all the other promotions, WCW used to do that with Ric Flair and other people. That's been the case for a very, 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 very long time. And I don't hate that formula. When done right, I mean, obviously it becomes predictable after a while, but when done right, I have no issue with it. All the people that you mentioned had very good to great championship reigns. Samoa Joe, his reigns were a bit shorter, but the guy in the role of champion was awesome. Bobby Roode had a very underrated, in my opinion, NXT championship reign for 7 months. Some very good matches with Drew McIntyre, Shinsuke Nakamura, Cassius Ohno, Hideo Itami, Roderick Strong, among others. Andrade didn't hold the championship for a while. He was clearly a filler champion, but the matches with Johnny Gargano are among the greatest of all time, partially because Andrade was the champion. He had a couple of good matches with Aleister Black as well. Tommaso Ciampa, great champion. Had a lot of great matches with Johnny Gargano, Velveteen Dream, Aleister Black, among other people on TV. Adam Cole, I believe him to be the greatest NXT champion of all time. So I feel like it's a formula that works. If it didn't work, then don't do it. But for NXT, it works. For Balor, will he break that curse kind of thing? You mentioned for the last 5 years, that Black was the only champion, babyface champion, that exceeded 100 days. That's crazy. But I think with Aleister Black, too, you got to remember the same exact thing. He was a lot better in chase mode than he was as champion. Part of that was because of the Gargano-Ciampa story going on at that point, and how that kind of overshadowed Aleister Black. So Aleister Black's championship reign wasn't overly great. He won the match. He won the title in a great match with Andrade. He had a good match with Lars Sullivan to TakeOver Chicago 2. And then that was it. He dropped the championship to Tommaso Ciampa a month later. So he didn't really have a very memorable championship reign. It was just kind of there. He felt overshadowed. It was decent at best. Before then, Finn Balor is probably the last great babyface champion that brand had. Him and Neville. Neville, I thought, had a very good championship reign, too. But yeah, Balor, I assume, is going to hold it for a while. He's clearly keeping it warm for either Karrion Kross to come back which hopefully is soon, or that's the thing. I don't even really know. I feel like Balor is a placeholder. It's not like, oh, we've been building the Balor as the next champion for a long time. I don't think he would have won the championship had it not been for Karrion Kross getting hurt. I really don't. I feel like if anything, they would have given the championship back to Tommaso Ciampa at some point, which, I mean, that could be the next champion. It could be Tommaso Ciampa. He never technically lost it, so that could be what they do. But if it's not Ciampa, and Karrion's going to be gone for a while, who is the right possible person from that brand to beat Balor for that belt? Is it a Damian Priest, who's currently the NXT North American champion? I don't think so. I mean, maybe, just because Priest is owed a victory over Balor at some point. Never beat him. Balor beat him. So maybe, but I feel like that would be a while away considering Damian Priest is still the NXT North American champion. I don't even know. I'm looking at the roster. I'm just kind of thinking about the roster in my mind right now. Is it a Bronson Reed? I don't think so. At least not right now. I don't really know. I feel like they're in a weird spot right now. Whereas a year ago, you could have put the championship on Cole, Ciampa, Gargano, Riddle, Keith Lee at that point, and any one of those people would have made sense. Cross is gone. Gargano, Ciampa, and Cole have already had their time, as has Balor, and I guess Ciampa could beat him for it, but they got to start building up new top-tier talent for that show. With Cross gone and Keith Lee on the main roster, Matt Riddle gone, they need more top-tier talent they can put that championship on at some point. Is it a Kushida? I don't think so, just because they've shown zero signs of actually wanting to push that guy towards that level. Maybe the mid-card level, but beyond that, Cameron Grimes? No, I don't think. Again, Bronson Reed is too soon. Dexter Lumis? God, I hope not. I like the guy, but NXT champion? No. I've seen people say Roddy or Kyle. I feel like they're just better on the main roster at this point. And I know the main roster, I mean, it's a very big risk, but they've been there for 3 years. It's time to move on. I don't know. I mean, Roddy's been there for 4 years as of like this fall, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, yeah, I think Balor is probably bound to break that curse, so to speak. I see him holding the championship for the remainder of the year, which right there is 90 days to 100 days. So, I mean, that would probably take him to 100 days. I don't see him losing that championship in the next couple of months. He could, back to Tommaso Ciampa, but if you're going to do that shit, then why not give Tommaso Ciampa the championship in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, that would make no sense, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think they're going to, keep the championship on Balor for a while, and maybe there's someone that's going to take that championship from him that I'm not thinking of. Someone they bring in, or someone that comes back from the main roster. I don't know. But I do think Balor is going to be a champion for a while, as he was in 2015, 2016. Maybe not for, 10 to 11 months, not for 9 months, but I would say at least the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, I would say, in my opinion. Unless the main roster needs him tomorrow, which could very well be possible. I feel like with Mercedes Martinez, she was primed to be the next top heel in that NXT women's division. Then the main roster was like, no, you're not. We need you right now in the main roster as part of Retribution, which, the jury's still out on that one. And she lost last night. She got booted from the Robert Stone brand, and she's probably headed to Raw. So, just because they have plans for people to be this long-reigning champion or the next top star in this division, that doesn't mean jack shit. When Vince comes calling, it's hard to say no. Very rarely I feel Triple H has gotten his way in saying, listen, let me keep Asuka. That was one instance. Other people I'm not so sure about. I feel like when the call comes, like Kevin Owens, they're on up to the main roster. So anyway. Their next question from Emmanuel here, his third question. I started watching your MCU Rewatch review series, and I'm going from the beginning with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, though I did skip ahead to when you released the Black Panther video, which went up on Monday. I know you talked about the distribution rights issue with Hulk, but do you think a standalone Hulk movie could be better than what 2008 did, or was that the best Hulk can get? I remember discussing the 03 and MCU version with someone, and he said Hulk just works better in an ensemble like Avengers or even Thor Ragnarok than he does leading a movie himself. To put it in wrestling terms, which I fucking love, is Hulk capable of main roster status, not main roster, main event status, or is he just a mid-carder? That's a great question. To go off on an MCU tangent here, I think he is the current incarnation of Hulk. I think I've seen a lot of people say we need a proper Planet Hulk movie, which was kind of what we got with Ragnarok. Now, I'm not super into the comics. I mean, if you listen to that series with Chris and I, I'm only really invested in the movies, not so much the comics. So Chris kind of fills in the blanks for me there, and the movies are great. And by the way, Chris and I feel like are doing amazing work every single week with that podcast right here on the channel. Check it out. It goes up every single Monday. We are nearing the end. We just got to Black Panther. We're going to be doing Infinity War next Monday. That's going to be a big one, so keep an eye out for that. But I feel like, we're just killing it every single week. And the Black Panther one on Monday from this week was one of the best we've done yet. So definitely check it out. But as far as the Hulk stuff is concerned, I think, and I may have said this in that podcast, I do feel that regardless of what the rights issues are, that Hulk can lead his own movie. With Mark Ruffalo. I didn't love the '08 movie, to be honest with you. I only saw it for the first time when we did that podcast, like the night before I watched it for the first time. That was like the only MCU movie I have not seen up to that point. I've seen them all since then, obviously, but I think he is, though. I think Mark Ruffalo as Hulk is a good fit. I like him as the Hulk, as Bruce Banner, whatever. I didn't love that '08 movie. The '03 movie was fine. I think people would say that was better. I didn't love it personally. I don't know. I think he would be in present day, though. I feel like there's a lot more, especially now that we're getting She-Hulk. Maybe that could lead to an eventual Hulk movie all on his own. Yeah, he is great with I've never really given a shit personally, and Nick, who has been on for the Avengers reviews, is not going to like that I'm saying this. But I just never really cared about Hulk as much as I have the other Avengers. So, and I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. He's just, not that he's one-dimensional, because there are more layers to the character, but I'm just not as invested in him as I am a Captain America or an Iron Man or even Hawkeye, to be honest with you, which I know is an odd thing for anyone to say, but I like Hawkeye a lot. But at any rate, with Hulk, I do think that, and after everything we've seen from the character in the last decade, since that first '08 movie, now with a completely different actor, a different story, different feel to the character, I think it would work. Especially after he's already had many appearances in the Avengers movies and Ragnarok, where he was great in. Yeah, I do think he is better in that ensemble environment, but do I think he could lead a movie of his own and be successful? I do think so. I definitely do. FD from Facebook's got a few questions here. First one being, if you notice the trend, on one hand, AEW is doing their utmost best with their tag team division with how they handle all of their teams, like the Young Bucks, Dark Order, FTR, etc., and provide nice feuds and matches every week, either on Dynamite, Dark, or pay-per-views. Meanwhile, Monday's Raw, he sent this on Tuesday, is proof that WWE is letting their main roster tag team division just fall out of place, with the recent breakup of Andrade and Angel Garza, injuries to several tag teams still MIA, etc. The question is, do you agree with my thoughts there? What is the main contribution to the whole WWE tag team situation? And what is the strategy AEW is currently doing that WWE should try to implement and hopefully getting their main roster tag team division going? The funny thing, it's not just a main roster problem. It's a problem in NXT too. I've been saying that since like the beginning of the year. There's a reason why they use the tag teams from NXT UK. Half that Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic earlier this year was NXT UK tag teams. They did that because NXT has very little tag teams. They have no tag teams to the point where they had to make a tag team out of Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne to put the championships on. And they work great together, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it goes to show how weak that tag team division is. Currently, at that point, they still had Forgotten Sons, and I think they made it all the way to the finals or close to the finals, I don't remember. But they're on the main roster now. And I don't give a fuck about them anyway, but NXT, they only have Undisputed Era, and they have to be main roster bound at some point. They have, Imperium, but they're more of an NXT UK tag team. Breezango, I like Breezango. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's nice they got the tag titles finally, but like if that's the best you can do right now, that's not a great spot to be in. They also have Legado del Fantasma. They're a great team. Lorcan and Birch have been there forever. They need new teams. Now, what would I do to improve that? They need to either make new teams or bring in new teams. Now, like they have Everrise, they're a good team. They need to win more often. They're currently a staple on 205 Live, and no one really watches that show. They need to be on NXT more often and win more matches in order for people to care about them. Raw, they only really have the Street Profits. Viking Raiders, Ivar might be out for a little while. I don't know how long, but he was hurt on Monday. He suffered a stinger or a neck injury, whatever. He's going to be fine, but I just don't know how long he's going to be out for. I never really got a timetable on that. And that's about it. Andrade and Garza, like you said, are probably breaking up, which it might be for the better at this point if they can't fucking win the tag titles. They've lost a million times at this point. God, AOP they just let go, which made absolutely no sense to me. Just because at a time when tag team wrestling has not meant this little in WWE in a long time, why the fuck, unless this guy has pictures of Vince nude or something, Akam or Razor or whatever, why the fuck would you release this tag team when you need more teams in this division? You know what I'm saying? Like, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So anyway, SmackDown, Lucha House Party, good team, might be breaking up soon if Kalisto goes heel. Cesaro Nakamura, makeshift tag team. You have the Usos, they're hurt. New Day is out hurt. They don't really have a lot of teams. Miz and Morrison probably, on the skids right now. Probably going to split up soon. You know what I mean? So, at any rate, with AEW, they have a lot of great teams. I almost feel like AEW has too many teams, to be honest. I feel like Santana and Ortiz don't feel as special as they probably should because there's already so many great teams in that company. They put people together at random, like the Initiative. Who gives a fuck? Like, we don't need Luther and Serpentico or whatever the fuck his name is. Serpentico, excuse me. Like, they put teams like that together. Why? Like, they already have enough good tag teams. They don't need to put together random tag teams for no reason. They have enough teams, trust me. AEW has a good handle on their tag team division. WWE does not. But at the same time, WWE has a good handle on their women's divisions. AEW does not. So it goes both ways. But yeah, I don't even really know what to say about the WWE tag team division. It's in terrible shape right now. They need more teams, put together more teams. Andrade and Garza was a good idea, but I wish they just would have won the belts so they could lose them to Rey and Dominic at some point. We're not getting that right now because Rey's hurt, but let's say he wasn't hurt. That'd be a great idea to do at some point, at least in my opinion. So, at any rate, I don't really know. I honestly don't really know what they do. I could go up and down the roster and say, this team would be great. Like Alexander and Ricochet. They weren't doing jack shit before they were put together earlier this year. And then they broke up on Monday, which might have been for the better just because Alexander as a heel is interesting to me. But like on SmackDown, Shorty G, Chad Gable, whatever the fuck, you could put him together with, God, I don't even know. Like Jason Jordan ain't coming back. An American Alpha reunion would be awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of people like Cruz and Akira Tozawa. You could probably say Apollo and Ricochet, which would be fine too. But I feel like Apollo and Akira have more history. They have more chemistry. So I would say those two. But Apollo and Ricochet, I guess. You just need more of a reason to care about him, I guess SmackDown has heavy machinery, but with Otis as Mr. Money in the Bank, how does that really work? I don't fucking know. They need more teams. They need to bring in more teams, and AEW has more teams, I feel like, than anyone else in WWE combined. Like, you combine the Raw, SmackDown, and NXT tag team divisions, AEW probably has more teams than them. Again, like I said, I feel like their biggest issue is they have too many teams, to the point where certain teams don't feel special. But AEW, or rather WWE's got to get a handle on that, because their tag team division right now is in fucking shambles. His second question, the AEW All Out 2020 last Saturday was considered by many to be one of the worst shows AEW has ever put out, according to many of the wrestling fans. My questions are, do you feel that the terrible botches happening throughout the whole show, like the Matt Sydal AEW botch, debut botch, and the controversial Matt Hardy injury situation that night, put a huge dent on the perception of the entire show? Also, do you see this as NXT's golden opportunity to attract the majority of the unhappy AEW fans with the pay-per-view, and thus boost their chances of winning AEW's main demo target right now? Finally, do you see AEW and Tony Khan being able to bounce back in their build to their next big show, Full Gear? I said that earlier, they will bounce back. If Full Gear sucks or whatever, then they might start to question things a bit more. I feel like it was just an off night. I didn't give a shit about the show, to be honest, overall. I'll talk about the best and worst of the show later on. Yeah, the stuff that you mentioned definitely put a major dent on it. I feel like the show never really recovered after the Matt Hardy situation, but it wasn't lighting the world on fire prior to that point. Let me tell you that much. The Casino Battle Royal, I didn't give a shit about it. I feel like a majority of the card, I just didn't care. I feel like the main matches were what was going to make or break that show. The undercard meant nothing to me. That Dark Order 8-man tag team match meant absolutely nothing. I feel like I could see that in an episode of fucking Superstars. Who gives a shit? Who cares? The Casino Battle Royal, I'm done with the Battle Royals. They're fun, but to throw all these random people in a Battle Royal where you know 3/4 of them aren't going to win because they're tag team guys, that does nothing for me. Who cares? Next. Sheeta and Rose was great. The main event was great. The tag team title match was very good. Orange and Jericho is probably the only main match I didn't really care for. I was looking forward to seeing how they would handle it. It was a bust. It didn't work. The stipulation was dumb. The fan energy, I heard, oh, Jacksonville, the humidity. Who cares? I don't give a fuck about the humidity. They came alive for Jericho's entrance. They were singing their heads off for Jericho's entrance. Where were they for the rest of the show? I don't give a shit about the whole humidity situation. That ain't no excuse. I've been to WrestleMania where it's like rained, it's been cold, it's been hot. That means jack shit. The show was way too long. The injuries were an issue, but it wasn't the entire... If the Hardy situation happened and the show was still great, I may not have minded that stuff as much. I mean, the Hardy situation was still embarrassing, but the botch was whatever. It put a dent on the match, but, it was at the very end, so who cares? And shit happens. The Hardy situation was just malpractice on the part of the doctor. But the Battle Royal should not have happened. That shit should have been on the pre-show. The Tooth and Nail match, listen, I'm glad they got on the main show to increase the exposure of the women, because they only had one match on that show that was a women's match before they added that to the main card. But the match sucked. The buy-in sucked. The match has been absolutely nothing. Put the fucking Casino Battle Royal on the pre-show. Honestly, even the 8-man tag team match should have been on the pre-show. We should have gotten Ricky Starks versus Darby, or Bryan versus Darby, or the Best Friend versus Santana Ortiz. That shit would have been better than what we got. The whole, get everyone on the show mentality is fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb. I hate that. WWE does it too, and I hate when they do it too. I fucking hate when they do that shit. Why was Serpentico on the buy-in? Is the guy even signed? Come on, man. Why is that shit happening? Facing Joey Janela? Who gives a shit? Who cares? So, the botches, did put maybe not a huge dent. It hurt the flow of the show, but the fact the show was almost 4 hours long, 5 if you include the buy-in, the botches didn't help. A lot of the matches just weren't interesting, and the crowd sucked too. So, all those things factored together made it a very weak show, in my opinion. It wasn't entirely terrible. I thought it was decent. It was a very subpar show. Very mediocre. But I thought the main event at points was great. The tag title match wasn't what it should have been. Again, 30 minutes for the sake of being 30 minutes. Fucking stop. It should have been 20 minutes. There's no reason for that to be 30 minutes unless you're Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Stop it. The match was good. Could have been better, but it was still very good. The women's match was great. That was easily the best part of the show, in my opinion. And that was it. There really weren't many other highlights from the show, in my opinion. So, I think all those things put together really made it a weak show. Is this going to help NXT? No. Again, it's one show. Who cares? I doubt a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, AEW sucks now, let's tune into NXT. A lot of the AEW fans are diehards. They just don't care about NXT. Even when NXT is not opposed by Dynamite, they still will not watch NXT. I mean, whatever. That is what it is, but that's just I don't know. That's just the AEW fans for you. I like watching both shows. Some fans don't like one product or the other. I like to give them both a shot. I very much enjoy NXT, and I usually very much enjoy Dynamite. So, I don't think just because All Out was a disappointment that people are going to be like, oh, we're not going to watch anymore, and we got to watch NXT every Wednesday, blah blah blah. I don't see that happening at all. I don't see that target audience moving on over to NXT just because All Out wasn't as good as they were hoping for. And some people are still defending it, calling it a great show. Listen, if you enjoyed it, that's a different thing. But to call it a great show, you must be fucking blind. Because that was not a great show at all. It was easily the weakest show they've ever done. The worst show I've ever seen from that company. And listen, if TakeOver 30 was a bad show, I would say that was the worst show they've ever done too, because every TakeOver is good to great to amazing. It's the same exact thing. Worst sounds harsh, but it was undoubtedly their weakest show yet. That's not to say it was entirely terrible, though. It could have been a lot worse, but what I saw on Saturday was not good. At Iwagu91, do you see Kenny Omega coming back as a heel? I don't know about coming back, just because he hasn't really gone anywhere. But yeah, I definitely see him going heel, as he should. We have not seen cleaner Kenny Omega in AEW yet. We haven't really seen heel Kenny in at least 3 years. That first Okada match was in early 2017. And he's kind of been a babyface since then, I would say. Since like early 2018, late 2017, he's been a babyface for. So we haven't really gotten heel Kenny in a long time. Definitely not in AEW. So I do think he's going heel. I think that's a way better option than turning Adam Page, who's just naturally likable. He's got momentum right now. I think to turn Adam Page would be incredibly stupid. And they could always change my mind, but I feel like he's so popular right now, and there's not a lot of fans, so it doesn't really matter. There's no, indicator there. There's no way to really tell how over he really is. But he was really over pre-pandemic. It seems to be that he's really still popular now. And Kenny Omega's popular too, but the guy's always been a better heel. Adam Page, I have not seen, and we were all pulling for him to go heel a year ago, and I was all for that. But I don't think it's the right call right now. Given how sympathetic he's been in recent months, I think it would be dumb to turn the guy heel. Kenny Omega, in my opinion, would be the better heel. Your second question, your thoughts on Cedric Alexander joining the Hurt Business. I like the idea a lot. I'm not sold on the idea that he's officially joined. I mean, they kind of hinted at it on Raw before the segment was interrupted, before the VIP lounge was interrupted by the babyfaces. He did take a picture with the Hurt Business after Raw and put it on his Twitter, wearing the shirt. So he is, I guess, a part of the group. The whole thing with Shelton made me think that he might be either a double agent, he might double cross him, or he'll just go off on his own. And I hope not, just because I feel like him with the Hurt Business is a great fit. The guy's great. Him and Benjamin as tag team champions would be awesome. I feel like that would be really, really cool. Give MVP the US Championship when Lashley loses it, and then give Lashley the World Championship. That's fucking money. Money! So yeah, I like the Cedric heel turn. I thought it was great. Yeah, it's been teased, but I didn't think they would actually pull the trigger, to be completely honest with you. I didn't think they would actually do it. So I was very happy to see that they did. And, yeah, we'll see where it goes. So I think the Hurt Business, they shouldn't be having 6 or 7 members. Like, I don't think that's necessary. 4 is perfect. Perfect. Gives Benjamin a tag team partner. MVP can wrestle occasionally, but still be like a mouthpiece. And you can give the World Championship to Lashley at some point. Even right now, he's the United States champion. So there's nothing to complain about. But, yeah, most definitely I could see Cedric being a great fit for the Hurt Business. And I'm glad they did it. We'll see where it goes. At noob_n_co 1991, their first question was, do you think NXT will move to Tuesday nights? I say it would be a great move by WWE. Yeah, Tuesdays, Thursdays, doesn't really matter. Either way, I'd be all for it. I like Thursdays more. I mean, either way, regardless of what night they move to of the two, Impact has got to move, which I think they would. I don't, as a fan personally reviewing all this stuff, I don't like having to watch one show against the other and watch them back and forth. Listen, NXT and Dynamite going head-to-head has made for some great TV over the last year. As a fan, I would rather see one on one night and the other one on the other. Just because the ratings are better that way for both shows. And not only that, but it just makes it easier for me, personally. And it gives us wrestling on literally every day of the week. NXT UK is technically on Thursdays, but that always airs at like 3 o'clock, so it doesn't even really matter. I would put NXT back on Thursdays. It was on Thursdays like 5, 6, 7 years ago, a long time ago, before it moved to Wednesdays on the network. I like Thursdays for NXT. Move Impact or keep Impact on Tuesdays. Or you could put Impact back on Thursdays. That's where it always was, either way. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think NXT on Tuesdays, Thursdays would be a much better move. Their ratings have improved a lot, being on its own night. They're not great numbers, but they're better than what they were on Wednesdays, airing opposite of Dynamite. So I think they will move to Tuesdays. Will they? Yeah, I think they should. Will they, though? I think they will. I know WWE, we want to put AEW out of business. It ain't gonna fucking work. They've whipped your ass so much over the last year, like aside from like 5 or 6 different episodes, if that. NXT has had their ass handed to them. No matter how good the show is, people will almost always tune into Dynamite over NXT. They have to move to a different night. They're not going to put AEW out of business. They've already re-signed a multi-year deal with TNT. They are not going anywhere. Someone's got to move. Yeah, NXT was there first, but who cares? Does it really even matter? Who gives a shit? I would put it on Thursdays, but that's just me. So, yeah, I think they will move eventually. I think the USA Network is going to be like, listen, we've tried it on Tuesdays and it works. We're just going to do that. They'll probably pressure WWE, Vince, Triple H, whoever, to moving it to a different night. just so the ratings don't get low enough where they have to cancel the show. Which, not that they'll cancel it. I feel like it gets more viewers than most shows on the USA Network. But it's just better for everybody. It's better for everyone. If you really want to go to war with Dynamite, put Raw on Wednesdays, which you know they'll never fucking do. So just leave it be. Noob's second question. What are your thoughts on Bayley turning on Sasha Banks last week on SmackDown? I thought it was a great angle. I mean, we all saw it coming, but it was more a matter of when. I honestly thought they would wait at least another month or two, and I'm glad they didn't, just because the whole two belts Banks shit, that shit got old a while ago. And they're very entertaining, don't get me wrong, and I got jumped at on Twitter for saying this, but they are absolutely overexposed. Bayley and Sasha have almost been on every single episode of Raw and SmackDown for at least the last 3 or 4 months. That is way too much. Should the tag titles be defended on all the shows? Absolutely. They're on NXT a few times too. Should they be on every show? Yes. In the same week? The answer is no. Maybe occasionally, but if you're going to appear on Raw one week, don't go to SmackDown. There's no need for it. And they've done great work. Again, they're very entertaining. But there was absolutely no reason for them to be on every fucking show every fucking week. That was way too much. So I'm glad that's over with. We finally got the turn, and it wasn't as simple like, oh, I'm going to walk out on you, or I'm going to punch you in the face and leave. That was a pretty vicious attack. Early on, she missed some shots Bayley did on Sasha, looked kind of weak. The overall angle, though, was great. The commentary sucked for it. From Cole and Graves, it wasn't good at all. That being said, though, I thought the overall angle, the execution of it, was very, very well done. Didn't see it coming, didn't think it would happen when it did. Put Sasha on the shelf, hopefully, for at least a month, if not more. I'm hoping at least 2 or 3 months, but that's just wishful thinking. Not because I don't like Sasha, but you really want to sell the angle so they can come back and do the match at some point. Watch WWE, though. Bring back Sasha on fucking Friday and build a Sasha and Bayley at Clash of Champions. No thank you. That makes absolutely no sense. Do Bayley and Naomi instead, which actually makes more sense for a variety of reasons. I saw someone bring this up on Twitter, and I love the idea. Naomi shouldn't beat Bayley, but it makes sense for 2 reasons, or 3 reasons. 1, they should be pushing her because she's good. But more importantly, 2, because Bayley beat Naomi before SummerSlam on SmackDown. She pinned Bayley in that beat the clock challenge or whatever the fuck after Sasha already beat Naomi. Naomi beat Bayley. So they should go back to that. And not only that, but Naomi and Sasha used to be really close in Team Bad. So she could be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Standing up for her friend, stand up to Bayley, face Bayley at the pay-per-view, boom. Mandy Rose is an option as well. She's coming off that win to Sonya Deville. She hasn't been on SmackDown. I don't know why. Unless she's taking time off too, Mandy and Bayley would also make sense. So they have options here. They have a lot of options. And, I love the angle. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they handle this, when they do the match. Is it Survivor Series? Is it Rumble? Is it WrestleMania? I don't know. I would like to see it dragged out. I know I didn't say that a few weeks ago, but now we finally got the turn, and Sasha really is beaten up, and she's off the show. If Sasha was on the show, that's a different story. I don't want to see this blown off at Clash or at Hell in a Cell. This has got to be dragged on for a while. And yeah, the issue is that Bayley, she's beaten everyone in that division. I've said that a million times before, which is why they're going to have to hurry this process up. But they do have 2 challengers in Naomi and Mandy. And not only that, but if the draft happens at some point, which it's rumored to be happening next month, I think, which is around the same anniversary as last year's draft, then what you can do is this. You can move some people over from Raw, whether it be a Bianca or Mickie James. I would like to see on SmackDown. I'm trying to think who else from Shayna, maybe? Shayna and Bayley. I don't really care about that. I'm trying to think. The Riot Squad should probably stay on Raw. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Maybe Peyton Royce. Move Peyton over to SmackDown. Yeah, she's a heel, so maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. There's options, though. Move some people over from Raw. Have Bayley face Naomi and Mandy in the meantime, and boom, you're set. You have enough challengers to fill the time before Sasha comes back. So I think that's how it's going to play out, and hopefully it does. And she doesn't come back on Friday, and they do the match at Clash of Champions in 2 weeks. That would be stupid. Which WWE and NXT superstars, Noob's third question is, have had a great 2020 so far? I would go with Drew McIntyre or Randy Orton, Asuka, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Karrion Kross, Io Shirai, Adam Cole, and Rhea Ripley. You pretty much named everyone that I was going to say right there. All those people have had great years. Drew McIntyre, I think, has been one of the MVPs of this pandemic era of WWE. Great matches, great character work, great promos. Randy Orton, same thing, great promos. He's been on fire this year. Asuka, I don't really give a shit about the antics. Like, oh, look at me, I'm speaking Japanese. And it's not the Japanese thing. It's that WWE has her ramble in Japanese. We have no idea what she's saying. Then she does the dance. I just find that to be incredibly annoying. You know WWE does that because it's like, oh, if we ever speak in Japanese and no one knows what she's saying, people will find it funny or find her intimidating. Like, I think that's so stupid. I think it's so dumb. And that's not an Asuka thing, that's a WWE thing. They gotta fucking stop having her do it. It's so annoying. And we know that she could speak English. That's the worst part. Sasha's great too. Sasha Bailey have killed it. Overexposed, yes, but they've killed it in their respective roles. Karrion's been an MVP for NXT. Not a lot of great matches, but he's been built up very well. Io Shirai's been unpinned all year. Some very good matches with a variety of people. Tegan, Dakota, Charlotte, a decent match. Rhea, among other people. So, Io's been an MVP in NXT. Adam Cole and Rhea, absolutely. Rhea's been doing great work all year. Adam Cole up until he dropped the championship. And even afterward, the Pat McAfee match was great. The Balor match last night was great. See, Adam Cole's probably been the biggest MVP for WWE in 2020. Keith Lee is probably the only other person you didn't mention that I would throw in there as well. Great reign as North American champion. The NXT championship reign was blink and you missed it, but he should have won it. He had that big win over Adam Cole. The Dominic Dijakovic match on TV was good. The Karrion Kross match was pretty good. And now he's on Raw. He beat Randy Orton at Payback. He's had a great 2020 as well. So, yeah, pretty much everyone that you mentioned, in addition to Keith Lee. At RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau's first question was. And before I get to his question, big thanks to Mr. Marceau for visiting the DiGiacomo compound on Saturday for All Out. I have not seen RJ since we went to the final Raw of the decade. I think the last time I saw him was literally December 31st, so not even this year of 2019. And we were going to hang out a few different times. We were going to go to Dynamite, this show, that show. Everything got canceled, obviously, so that didn't really work out. But he did come down with his fiancée, Molly. Great to see both of them on Saturday for AEW All Out. Hopefully we can see him again soon. But anyway, his question was, what are the 3 worst booking decisions in 2020 so far in WWE/NXT and AEW? What are the 3 best? Great question, and this did take me some time to think about. What I tried to do, I tried to find one best booking decision from WWE, one from NXT, and one from AEW, and the same thing with the worst. So we'll start with the best. The best from the main roster, in my opinion, would be their decision to go with Drew McIntyre as the winner of the Rumble and to beat Brock clean at WrestleMania. I thought that was incredibly smart, very, very smart. He's been killing it in the role. They made a new star with Drew with that, with winning the Rumble, eliminating Lesnar, beating Lesnar, and beating all these people since then. So I think that decision to go with McIntyre as the main eventer was probably their best decision all year. From NXT, I couldn't think of one great booking decision that I thought was overly amazing. But one I think was the decision to put the belt on Keith Lee, albeit for not very long, obviously. But Lee and Cole, the match was very good. But the decision to put the belt on Lee was smart. They've run with Keith Lee. His debut was a botch. It was a mistake, whatever. That's probably not the worst booking decision, but that was pretty dumb. But they've run with Keith Lee as a big star all year. NXT did, and now WWE. The matches with Orton have been hit or miss. He beat him at Payback, which is when it mattered most, which was good. I appreciated that. But the fact that they went with Keith Lee and they built him up as strong as they did, and now he's on the main roster, that's a pretty smart booking decision from NXT, was to run with Lee as the guy of NXT for a little while. And then from AEW, I couldn't think of one, they've done a lot of great stuff. I couldn't think of one, oh man, this was the greatest booking decision they've had all year. The Dark Order has really won me over. I don't know if that's their best booking decision, because a lot of people wouldn't agree. I thought that one episode of Dynamite, the first pandemic episode of No Fans, when Brody Lee debuted and Matt Hardy, was fucking awesome. I don't know if that was their best booking decision, was to sign Matt and to sign Brody. I think it was smart. Was it their best booking decision? I don't know about that. But that was really cool. The Dark Order, Tease, and Matt Hardy, I think that would be up there. I would say keeping the belts on Adam Page and Kenny Omega for as long as they did. Now, it was wearing a little thin by the end. I feel like it doesn't do a lot for the NXT or for the AEW tag team division because they're not an actual team. But the reign was great. They had a lot of great matches. And it's progressed the Adam Page story wonderfully. So I would probably say the Adam Page-Kenny stuff has been the best part of Dynamite AEW all year. You could also throw in, the decision to push Orange. I haven't really been sold on that as a main eventer. I don't think so, but, that was decent. The decision to put the belt on Shida, a smart one. Shida's great. The decision to put the belt on Jon Moxley, very smart. The guy, I think, has had a very good reign. Great promos, some very good matches, been booked extremely well, been undefeated since coming to AEW. So yeah, I think Moxley's done incredibly well on his own, and as world champion, that would probably be one of their best decisions as well. Now for the worst. From AEW, there really isn't, a lot of bad booking decisions they've made. Honestly, I really couldn't think of a whole lot, to be completely honest with you. I guess you could say, Brody Lee is the exalted one. I thought that was cool. I wanted it to be Matt Hardy. I wanted it to be like a Marty Scurll, but Brody Lee's been fine in the role. Orange Cassidy beating Jericho on Saturday, wasn't a big fan of that. It's all about the aftermath. I can't really say that was their worst booking decision, but I thought it was dumb. Whatever. To me, this was like the one thing I was like, all right, fuck this. Like, obviously, the decision to allow Matt Hardy to wrestle on Saturday was pretty dumb. That wasn't really a booking thing, though. The only other thing that I've seen to my memory that I can remember, that I've seen AEW do that I thought was really, really stupid, was the Shawn Spears, Dustin Rhodes bullshit at Double or Nothing. People like to forget about that, like, oh yeah, I forgot that even happened, because it was so fucking stupid. The match sucked, but like the whole, look, Tully Blanchard's on Shawn Spears' ass. Dude, come on. That was really embarrassing. The whole match sucked, and Shawn Spears was dead and buried at that point. I just thought that was really silly to not have him win there. And they're building him up now, but like it's really hard to care about the guy after he lost to Cody. He lost to this guy. He lost to that guy. He lost to fucking Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes should not be beating Shawn Spears in 2020. I'm sorry. That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So anyway. Yeah, that's probably their worst booking decision of the year. But that's not... It's not like, oh my god, it killed the company for me. It was just really, really dumb. That was the only thing, honestly, that really came to mind, which is a pretty good track record for AEW. NXT, same thing. I can't really think of one booking decision that I thought was stupid. I did write down here the Iron Man match ending. I thought that was really silly. Why would you do that ending when you could have just done Balor and Ciampa, or rather Balor and Cole in the first place? You could have just done a mini tournament. Maybe they don't want to beat Ciampa and Balor, but they could have just done Balor and Gargano, Cole and Ciampa. Cole wins, Balor wins. You do Balor and Cole. I don't really, or Balor and Ciampa, whatever. The Iron Man match was very good. The finish sucked. But I wrote this down too because I thought this was easily one of the worst decisions they made all year. I'll put this as my NXT one over the Iron Man match finish. The decision to have Charlotte Flair beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania for the NXT Women's Championship. That was fucking stupid. It accomplished literally nothing. The ratings did not improve. If anything, they went down. Not solely because of Charlotte, but they probably expected, Charlotte's a big star, which she is. Let's bring her back and put the belt on her. It made no sense. It was dumb. Rhea and Charlotte, I'm glad we got the match. The match was great. But if you can recall, Rhea never beat Charlotte. And maybe they'll have that eventual rematch down the road in the main roster and Rhea will win. But in NXT so far, Rhea never won. She was made to look inferior. I thought that was stupid. Really, really, really stupid. So anyway, that would probably be my NXT one. Rhea, she has not felt the special since. She's done a good job of rebounding, beating the Robert Stone brand, beating Mercedes last night on NXT. She's rebounded, which is nice. And I'm happy to see that. She's still not as special as she was before WrestleMania, though. Maybe it's because there's no fans, I don't know. But the whole loss to Charlotte was so counterproductive for literally everybody involved. It was counterproductive for Charlotte. It was counterproductive for Rhea. It was counterproductive for the NXT women's division. It hurt literally everybody. I don't understand that at all. From the main roster, if we're not counting the Charlotte-Rhea one, Wyatt losing to Goldberg, The Fiend getting beat by Goldberg at Super Showdown, I have not seen that type of anger since Rollins beat The Fiend at Hell in the Cell last year. I don't know which one was worse. But Goldberg beating The Fiend was so dumb. And yeah, Wyatt's rebounded. He won the championship back for a week or so ago, whatever. He beat John Cena technically at WrestleMania. People don't really remember that or talk about it, but Goldberg should not have been champion going into WrestleMania. I just don't understand that. I know they were probably going to have Roman beat Wyatt for it, which whatever. At least it would have been, and Roman ended up leaving anyway due to the whole pandemic, which he should have. He's not wrong for doing that, in my opinion. But anyway, what was I saying? The Fiend. Fiend losing to Goldberg. They built up the Fiend to be this unstoppable monster. He never ended up beating Goldberg. He lost the match. Lost the championship. Then never went back for it until like months later. He didn't give a fuck about the title at that point for whatever reason. I thought that was so stupid. People hated it. People thought, oh, there's no way Goldberg's going to win. This is WWE. Part of me expected it, and sure enough, we got it. I mean, fuck WWE. I gave them way too much credit for that. For like, oh, they wouldn't actually do it. There's a chance they might, but I don't think they will. And they did. It really hurt the Fiend's momentum. Again, another guy who has not been the same since. They've rebounded a little bit. Not as much as to where they were before. But I just thought that was really dumb. Goldberg was done in a month. He didn't need to win that match. We didn't need to have Goldberg a part of WrestleMania. That was a fucking joke. It was stupid. It was dumb. Does Braun then go on to beat Bray at WrestleMania? Honestly, considering they had The Fiend and Braun anyway, soon after, would it have even mattered? No. So I think they should have kept the belt on Bray at least until WrestleMania, in my opinion. Next question from Scarlet One as we wind down here. Final two questions. Best and worst of AEW All Out. You asked me the best and worst about TakeOver and SummerSlam. I already answered that a couple of weeks ago, so that's why I'm not going to answer it again here. But you did ask the best and worst of AEW All Out. I already said this earlier, but the best being easily the match of the night, in my opinion. Sheeta and Rosa was a great match. Jon Moxley versus MJF. It was a very good main event. People were like, oh, that was outstanding. I don't know about that, but it was very good to do a great match, MJF looked great. The lack of crowd really took me out of it. The crowd, there's a crowd there, that's the issue. Oh, it's too hot. It's humid. Oh, shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck. I've been in outdoor venues. I've been in indoor venues. For example, the Chicago Arena, the Allstate Arena, hot as fuck in there. Ask RJ. He was in there for Money in the Bank with me in 2018. Hot as fuck in that arena. They have no air conditioning. They have zero air conditioning in that building. Did that hurt the crowd at Money in the Bank 2011 for Punk versus Cena? The answer is no. So shut the fuck up with the whole, oh, it was hot. It was humid. Shut the fuck up. That's not an excuse. And so the whole Super Showdown thing last year, oh, Goldberg and Taker had a bad match because it was 100 degrees. I'm sure it didn't help. The match was going to be terrible no matter whether it was 100 degrees, 80, 30. It didn't matter. The match sucked. The match would have been no different on Saturday, whether it was hot or not. The crowd just didn't really care for whatever reason, whatever. But the match was good, though. I enjoyed the match. And Page and Omega versus FTR, again, way too long. Way too fucking long. It should not have been 30 minutes. It would have been way better had it been like 20. But it was still very good for what it was. Right result, too, with FTR becoming the new AEW Tag Team Champions. The worst from the show, the buy-in was a complete waste of time. The Dark Order versus Private Party, who gives a fuck? Why didn't they just move the Casino Battle Royale, as I said earlier, to the buy-in? The Tooth and Nail match, I'm glad the women made the pay-per-view, a second women's match. The match was terrible. It fucking sucked. Move that back to the buy-in, too. That was terrible. Cassidy and Jericho just kind of bored me. It wasn't terrible, just really boring. Having a hot crowd there would have really helped it. Without that hot crowd, it just wasn't that good of a match. It was kind of meh for me. Hardy and Guevara, you already know my thoughts on that situation. That was a fucking mess. And that 8-man tag team match almost bored me to tears. Bored me to sleep. Was Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and Natural Nightmares versus Dark Order. And then Dark Order lost! Yeah, it's a Brody and Dustin for Night on Dynamite. Dude, who cares? They could have just done Dustin and Brody tonight anyway. Considering Dustin, beat, not beat anyone, but Brody beat Cody. And Dustin's his brother. They could have set that up anyway. Dustin wins enough on his own, I feel like, where it wouldn't have mattered how they just done the match and Brody accepted. Another chance for him to beat up a legend or beat up a Rhodes family guy. The 8-man tag team match, if they were going to do it on Dynamite or do it on the kickoff. Complete waste of time. So not a great show overall. It wasn't entirely terrible, as I said, because they did have some good matches there. But it definitely was their weakest outing to date, and I will see no other argument. And a final question here from @Scarlet1. Did you notice Jim Ross's commentary line about Anna Jay having a wardrobe malfunction? I noticed it, maybe not in the moment. I think I saw it on Twitter after the fact. A very stupid thing to say. But listen, that was you know how I noticed earlier when I was talking about the issues with the show? That was an issue, but it was literally like last on my list. Jim Ross has said shit like this before. I'm a big JR fan. I'm glad he's still in the booth. Is he getting up there in age? Yeah, but like, this was just a dumb thing to say. He shouldn't have said it, plain and simple. It was gross, it was unnecessary, it was really, like, imagine anyone else saying that. It's not a JR thing. Like, if Tom Phillips said that, or an Excalibur, he would be, criticized the same way. It just sounds weirder with JR because the guy's like 68, and Anna Jay is like 20-something. That's fucking weird. There's almost a 50-year age difference there between Anna Jay and Jim Ross. That's fucking gross. So anyway, that was the least of the event's worries, though. I think the length of the show, the botches, the Matt Hardy situation, the amount of filler on the show, the pointless buy-in, the pointless pre-show, were way bigger issues than the Jim Ross line. I heard it. I thought it was dumb. I'm like, okay, I don't hate the guy for it. He should not say that type of shit. It was really stupid. You move on. Hopefully Tony will say, listen, JR, don't say... I don't know if it was a sexist thing. It was just kind of gross. Don't say gross shit. All right, he'll watch his mouth. You move on. There's no need to call for the guy, take him off the booth. Like, stop. He still adds a lot more to that show than people may realize, in my opinion. He's not great, but he is very, very good. He's not perfect, I'll say. He is great, though, in my opinion, but it is what it is. It was just a really dumb thing to say, and hopefully he'll never do it again. But it's no reason to take him off the show entirely, or to say that it was the worst part of the show. If you thought that was the worst part of the show, your priorities are out of whack. Because either there were way bigger issues on that show than one little line that JR made, and one little gross remark that he shouldn't have said that I forgot about 5 minutes later. Not even, probably like 2 minutes later. And that does it, guys, for episode 354 here today for September 9, 2020. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up every single day. Be sure to check out the playlist in the description box down below for more #AskGSM. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. You can tweet me, or find me rather, on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a question in the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. With all that being said, guys, have a great one. Enjoy your week. Check out my exclusive interview once again with Finn Balor coming up later this week on Bleacher Report, whether it be tomorrow or Friday. Pretty positive that you can also hear the audio of that interview as well here on the channel when that article goes up either tomorrow or Friday. I forget. But either way, you can check out that interview right here on Bleacher Report. Not right here on Bleacher Report, on Bleacher Report in the next couple days, and right here on YouTube as well, the audio version in the next couple days. So keep an eye out for that. And again, hit that little bell button to be notified when that Finn Balor interview goes up. That being said, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Enjoy your month of September. Enjoy Dynamite tonight, and I'll catch your ass down the road.